So, Epic Universe. This has been a topic that has been in the limelight for quite a while now, since it was announced back in who God knows when. But a lot of people have been building it up quite a strong amount. The advertising has been everywhere. I've seen commercials for it non-stop. And it has become a really big deal. Like the most immersive experience that you will ever have in your life. Like this is it. When it comes to immersion in theme parks, this is the end-all be-all. So as you can imagine, there is a lot of talking about it. There's a lot of people that have been really excited to go see it. A lot of people that have been fortunate enough to get early access. Shockingly, I was one of those people. I just got back from it today, and I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I think it's a very interesting topic to bring it up of what it does better than Disney, what it does worse than Disney, what it does better than the Universal parks, what it does worse than those kind of parks. And I think there's quite a bit to talk about, so I'm gonna do that. I was lucky enough to have a family member get me in for the cast preview of it, so none of this is paid for. This is all purely my thoughts. I want to be as completely honest about it as possible. I'm not gonna lie to your face and say like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. No, I want to be realistic about this. I want to have this coming from a perspective of someone that just goes to theme parks for fun. The best way to start that, of course, is through the entrance. So the first thing you see when you walk in is this giant tower. I think it's supposed to be one of the portals. I'm not 100% sure, but it's this giant tower with this archway. It has all these little dials of like all the different lands they have at the parks, and it's actually really cool. And the first thing that really caught not my eye, but my ear, was the music. The music was majestic. Like it felt like you were walking into kind of like this new world, and it's very, for lack of a better term, celestial, because the main hub area is what's known as like the celestial land. I don't know if there's like a pure story behind it. If there is, I didn't catch it, but it's very grand. It's very majestic. It feels like you're kind of like not even walking into another world, but kind of like another universe. Like it's very, I don't know the best way to put it, but it's very transcending. So as soon as you walk into the front gate, there are 4 different parks you can go to. Super Nintendo World, Universal Monsters, also known as the Dark Universe. You got the Isle of Berk from How to Train Your Dragon, and you got Paris from Harry Potter, or more specifically, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The first one we hit was Super Nintendo World. And I grew up on Nintendo games quite a bit. I was obsessed with Mario for a good amount of time. I was obsessed with Zelda for a very long time. I still kind of am. I still play Breath of the Wild to this day. And one of my favorite topics in video gaming is the old school Nintendo games. Stuff like the original Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island. I love that kind of stuff. The first thing when I did was walk in through that pipe, and they have the little doo-doo playing in the background, like you're actually going through it. Was I looked around, and I looked to the right and immediately saw a painting from Super Mario 64, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And then I looked back to the center, and the whole world came into view, and it was jaw-dropping. Absolutely freaking incredible. I loved every tiny detail of this place. There's so much to see, a little too much to see. I'm 100% positive I did not see everything. Like, they have this giant tower where like you can picture Mario going up these platforms, and like you can see something on the top there. There's a bunch of coins everywhere. There's Goombas going in between, stuck between 2 blocks. There's piranha plants. Everything was freaking incredible. And what we did was we kind of took a left, and there was just this kind of corridor, and I'm like, I didn't even know we're supposed to go back there, but you turn it and there's this whole game you can do. It's just somewhere hidden to the side is just this little space where you can do this mini game. It's basically like whack-a-mole, but you gotta defuse this giant bomb. And when you're going through the corridors, sometimes like the blocks on the wall shrink, saying that like you grew. Automatic 10 points for me for having a tiny Pikmin cameo. Love Pikmin. Thank you for putting Pikmin in there. You didn't have to do that. That's incredible. Of course, you also have like the blocks you can hit up and down.
Wait my entire life to do this.
You need the freaking power-up band or whatever it's called to make them make the proper noise, but I didn't do that. One thing I do know, and you're going to find this as a pattern, is that there are no places to sit down, and there is no shade. Absolutely no shade whatsoever, especially in the main areas. That is a big problem, not only with Nintendo, but with the rest. I'll get into that later. It is 90 degrees here in Florida, and 90 is on a good day, especially during the summer. So the first ride we did was, it's called like Yoshi's Island Adventure. It's just called Yoshi's Adventure. The way I describe it is that it's kind of this animatronic showcase where you go through all the little corridors and stuff, and you see Baby Mario and Yoshi on and stuff like that. My favorite part is that it's a really good way to get a really nice view of the entirety of Super Nintendo World. About towards the end, I saw this little strip of painter's tape on the ride. Not sure what that's about, but yikes. After that, we took a small trip to Donkey Kong Country. I was a little disappointed by that. It was a lot smaller than I thought it would be. It's still really cool. They got all these details like Donkey Kong's hut and stuff like that. The temple looks incredible. They have waterworks going on in there. But I was expecting a little more, just a little bit bigger, that's all. So after we got out of Nintendo World, we went back outside the portal. Still really cool. But one of the first things I noticed was how open the celestial hub area is. And I think it's a really good idea because Super Nintendo World is really, really cramped and really, really loud. And for someone like me who kind of has that kind of space issue where if it gets too crowded, I get a little overwhelmed. It's nice to have that option to just step out and there's this wide open area. The only issue with it is there's not many rest areas out there. There's a lot of space, but again, there's no benches, no umbrellas, nothing like that. If you want to find shade, you gotta find a restaurant or just a little canopy somewhere. That's really the biggest issue of the whole park, is that there's no shade anywhere. Another thing I noticed is that when it comes to the worlds, they try their best to separate them to make it seem like you're actually entering a different world. But the problem with that is, with all these grand structures, it's very easy to see, for example, the tallest tower in Berk from Nintendo Land. So that kind of kills the immersion or the theming or whatever of traveling to different worlds when you can see Dracula's tower from all the way next to Nintendo. The next spot we went to, which was probably my most anticipated one, was the Dark Universe. I love me some OG Universal monsters. The original Invisible Man is one of my favorite movies ever. I love it to death. We almost did see him. He is available to meet and greet at Universal's Dark Universe, but we just barely missed him. So when you walk in, you go through this little purple portal. It's really cool. And the first thing that struck me was all the commercials for the Dark Universe had these really gloomy days. It's all very cloudy and there's lightning in the sky and it's ominous. You can't quite do that on Universal's budget. You can't exactly change the weather like that. And I have learned something today. It is hard to do spooky and sunny, or at least this kind of spooky. The whole area is lit up, extremely. And when everything is gray, painted gray, it's hard to get that kind of horror aspect in there when there's not much you can do about the gray. I think, honestly, adding some more purple into the mix of paint would have been really nice. But they do their best. I acknowledge they do their best. They got fog rolling in. There's a well in the middle of the town center that has all this steam coming out of it. So it gets that ominous vibe on there. And I don't blame them for this, because honestly, what would you do? But it's hard to do that in the bright sun. What I want to do one day is go back during the nighttime. I imagine when the sun goes down, that park is freaking fantastic. I really want to go back during the nighttime, but I just didn't have the option to. It had closed at 7 anyway. And during the summer, 7 is barely sunset. So we ended up going on the Monsters Unchained ride. The outside of it, the castle, gorgeous. Drop down gorgeous. I love it. I love that kind of gothic architecture. That's right up my alley for that kind of spooky castle kind of vibe. I love it. Very Scooby-Doo. So when you walk in, you go down this dark hallway and you can't see anything. It is pitch black in there. There's maybe 2 lights in that hallway. But you keep going, and the rest of the queue, incredible. There's these wires hanging from the ceilings. There's a part where you can see Frankenstein in this tube, and there's an X-ray machine going on, and that whole room is the exhibit for Frankenstein. You can see his anatomy. You can see what went into making him. Incredible. You turn the corner, and there's this little library, and inside the fire pit, there's this newspaper saying how there's monsters all surrounding the town, and blew my mind. Freaking blew my mind. And there's another room where they're doing this experiment on one of Dracula's bats, and it's a 3D image in the wall. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So you finally get on the ride. They're building it up. They have 2 pre-shows that are drop down amazing. My favorite part is they spelled Igor correctly. Not many people in Igor is actually originally spelled Y-G-O-R, not I-G-O-R. So they spelled it right. Bravo on them. So Igor is telling you the whole story. He's going to be controlling your little ride vehicle. And you finally get on it. And one of the first things I noticed is you have to look straight on. If you look to the right or to the left, you're going to see what comes next on the ride. You think that'd be cool, but a lot of the ride relies on projections. So if you look too far, for example, there's a part where Frankenstein grabs this monster and like electrocutes him. And what happens is I looked over and I saw that. And as soon as he was done with his thing, the animation just cut. It cut back to the original, like the beginning of that animation. There was no seamless transition between that. So that kind of takes you out of the moment a lot, and it's tough to not do that because you're naturally just want to look around. So what you need to do is just keep your eyes straight on if you don't want to see what comes next, and if you don't want to see the thing reset. But other than that, the animatronics were spectacular. Frankenstein especially, and especially in the pre-show, like it looked like an actor. It was crazy. It was freaking flawless. I love it. Another thing is the audio's a little too, because you got these speakers right here on your little chair or whatever it's called, and the audio's a little too quiet on that. I really couldn't hear the story of what's going on. I got the basic gist of it, but yeah, it'd be nice if you just turned it up a little bit. There was a lot less animatronics than I was expecting. There's quite a few in there, and they're really good. The few ones that are in there are very, very good. My favorite one, I think, was there's a split second where you see the creature from the Black Lagoon. That's such a deep cut, and I love that to death. But I don't know. They built it up so much in the commercials as well. Like, it was going to be this groundbreaking experience, and everyone I heard from said it was absolutely incredible. And then you get on, and like there's a part where you're just kind of looking at a wall, and I saw a bunch of folded up chairs just sitting there, and it really takes you out of the moment of this fantastic ride that I really built up a lot. I was really, really excited for it. The pre-show especially just built my expectations even more. But I finally got on and I saw all these like sloppy animations being reset because I looked too far to the right just a little bit. And I don't know. I was kind of disappointed by it. Pre-show, again, Q in the pre-show, worth it alone. But I was expecting more than folded chairs and sloppy resets. So I got out of the ride. Gift shop was cool and all that, very gothic, I love it. And my wife sat out of this one, just because she can't do monsters. I don't blame her for that. But she was sitting in the corner next to the wishing well, or the well in the town center, and she said, yeah, if you stay in here for a few minutes, you can hear Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in this shop arguing with each other. And I was like, no way. And sure enough, after a little bit, they're they're yelling at each other, and you can hear him turn. You can hear these bottles rattling as he's like fighting for his life. Like, hell yes. One of the things I reiterated a lot during this trip was the theming in all the places is absolutely incredible. Like, when it comes to being in that world, you feel like you're in that world. It's really, really impressive how well and detailed the worlds are. So, Dark Universe, not what I expected. I expected a little more from it. I was a little disappointed because that was the one where I was kind of most excited for that, because that's such a niche subject to do. Like, when you think of Universal, you really don't think of the monsters anymore. So I'm glad they're coming back into the spotlight, and I'm glad people are liking the ride. I wish I did, but I'm glad that people are really adoring it, because this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about in the Universal history is the monsters. Again, Invisible Man, one of my favorite movies ever. I love that movie. I love the effects they did, and I love the storytelling in it. So I'm really happy that it's getting put back into that spotlight. So after all that, we exited the Dark Universe, and again, I gotta reiterate, even in the Dark Universe especially, no benches, no umbrellas, nothing, not much for cover other than going indoors to like a restaurant or a shop or something like that, which might be the idea. Now that I think about it, that's a scummy but smart idea. Is if you want shade, you got to go into a shop, and look, they have this in here, you should buy that. So if that is the case, ouch, that sucks, especially for a pale boy like me. One thing I forgot to mention, Nintendo especially, there's no signs for the bathroom. There are plenty of times where we had to ask where a bathroom was. And I feel like, especially when you're just opening a park, no one knows where the bathrooms are at. So it'd be really handy to label, like get a sign going, something like that, where it shows you where they're at. Because especially for the newcomers, just it's stuff to make life a little more simpler, especially in this very hot weather, where you need to find a bathroom as soon as possible sometimes. So after Dark Universe, we went through this. There's this giant kind of fountain area, lake, kind of like this fountain area, pond area that's very, very pretty. And that's where a lot of the celestial stuff comes into play, where it's this hub area. And again, I gotta reiterate, the music in this area was phenomenal, and it's very nice to look at. It's very like dark blue and gold. It's very, very pretty. I like the theming and music for the area a lot. But after that, you go past the pond and you see the giant hotel in the center there, and right next to that is Harry Potter or Paris. I think, honestly, it might be my favorite park, which is very bizarre because it was kind of the one I was not least excited for, but the one I wasn't expecting most from. And I think the reason that is because it's calm. It's calm there. They have this nice... It takes place, I think, in the 1940s, and I automatically love that era. I love that era to death. And it's got this calm music. It's very, very open, and it's very homey. And after the chaos that was Nintendo, because it was super crowded there and super cramped, it was a very good sigh of just a happy sigh. And what is in Harry Potter is butterbeer, and I love me some butterbeer.
A quick exclusive fact about me real quick. If you ever want me to do anything for you, and I mean anything, give me a universal butterbeer. I would die for this nectar of the gods.
But it was very spacious. The bathrooms were labeled properly. It was great. It had shade. There was an umbrella there. Thank God. So we took the opportunity and was like, let's go walk around here. And the one thing I wanted to see the most was the wands, because I love me some wand designs. It's the same for me for like lightsabers. I like seeing how many times you can make a different appearance for the same item. I love that kind of stuff. And we went through like 4 shops, could not find any. There had some cool stuff there. They had some 1940s, like a paperboy news cap. They had some like berets and stuff because it's in France. Really cool. But we finally made it to the wand, and it was the smallest shop in there. It was like, I think the maximum occupancy was like 37 people, and that would be like building a whole park for Star Wars, and then putting the lightsabers in a room that can fit 20 people. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's your key item. That's the thing that people that most want to see, especially when it's interactive with the area, and putting it in that small, cramped space is not a good idea. That is a recipe for disaster. And I had quite a few people step on my toes during that, just because it was so... It was so cramped in there, and I did not like that feeling. You walk on out, and I liked this area so much that I kind of put my phone down for a bit, which was a good idea because my battery was running pretty low because I was making so many videos and stuff. But it was really nice. I had 2 butterbeers, delicious. And then we went to go find out what the ride was, because they had the Ministry of Magic ride, and it was press only, which I think is pretty crappy. I get why they do it, because those are the people that are going to spread the word the most, and that's probably the ride they have the most confidence in. So it does make sense, but it was very disappointing because once I didn't originally intend on going on the ride. If it was open, I would have. But after getting into the area and seeing how cool it was, I was like, well, dang, now I kind of want to go on the ride. And when it was press only, I was really disappointed by that. Anyway, we keep walking around, you see all the spells. There was a painting people were talking to just in this window, like having a full conversation with. Pretty freaking cool. And then the final world is kind of the one I have the least attachment to, which is the Isle of Berk. I got nothing against the How to Train Your Dragon movies. They're cool. Each one I saw, I liked. Berk is another really solid example of how good the theming is. Say hi. But Berk is another good example of just how great the theming is. Like, everything, from the details to you can meet some characters and stuff, really, really solid. Like, nothing looked out of place or half done, except maybe the painter's tape. But like, for example, even the wheelchair sign in the little kid play area is themed to look like a Viking. Like, that's really, really cool. And like, you got these giant sprawling towers. You have this dragon you can walk up and meet that I haven't even seen before. Like, it's really, really well done. Like, I'm severely impressed that they kind of kept that promise of like, this is going to be it for immersion. Like, this is pretty good. Like, it's on Galaxy's Edge levels of immersion. Like, I'm severely impressed by that. Another thing that I noticed was the wait times weren't too bad. There was some pretty heavy wait times, but another thing I noticed was that I don't know how this is going to be when the gates actually open up to the public, and how bad they're going to get, but the wait times weren't the worst. The highest one I saw was 95 minutes. I think that was the Mario Kart ride. I did not get to go on that one, which kind of stinks, but 95 minutes is kind of bad for the time we had. But the thing with that is, I think there's like maybe 10 rides total for a park that's twice the size of regular Universal. And I could be wrong, but I don't see the wait times being very good for the amount of people that are going to go in. As soon as the doors open, it's going to be chaos. Today was really, really clear, and that's just because it was a cast preview. And even then, it was like maybe 99% capacity for the group they had. But once those doors open and there's not that capacity, I want to know how bad it's going to get, especially for those wait times, because I feel like it's going to be really rough. And if there's 95 minutes for Mario Kart with this limited capacity, I'm afraid of what comes after that. On my notes here, the next thing I have just says, lack of shade, dude. And yeah, they're right. The only shade we found was the kiddie play area. Florida, man. Florida will kill you with this heat. It's not exaggerated. It is bad. I've lived here my life, and I'm still getting sunburnt from this kind of stuff. The last ride we did was called like Hiccups Flight Training or something like that. Yeah, Hiccups Wing Gliders. That was a really solid coaster. I had a lot of fun on that. Best way I can kind of describe it is it's very Expedition Everest. It doesn't go as high, and it's not like surrounded by a mountain. But like the way the cars look and feel, very, very similar to that. There's a point where you kind of go backwards for a second. It's very Expedition Everest, and I love that ride. So naturally, I love this one too. It was very, very solid, very fun coaster. I would do that again if I had an afternoon to kill. But we didn't stay too long at Burke because it's just not my scene. I like the How to Train Your Dragon films, but I'm not going to appreciate that area as much as the fans do of that franchise. People who love that kind of stuff are going to eat this up. They're gonna love it. That was reaching the end of my experience at Epic, but I don't know. People built this thing up a lot, so my expectations rose a lot. People really like made this out to be like this is what's gonna put Disney in their place, and like even the commercials, like they made it seem like this. They made it seem bigger than it is. And the thing with that is, the more you build up a thing, the more it gets built up in your head. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if there's something I'm missing, but this isn't the Disney killer. It's just a really solid, a good park. So I don't know. That was my experience though. And if you love it, great. I'm happy for you. It was made for you. I'm glad you like it a lot. But this isn't the greatest park I've ever been to. So I left it to you. I asked what kind of topics you want to hear about, and some questions you had, possibly, just because it's pretty early on, and I know a lot of you are curious. So this is what was brought to me. I did kind of touch on a couple of these, but I will reiterate my points if needed. But the first question I got was least/favorite ride. I didn't go on that many rides, so I can't really give a good, solid answer on this, but I think, unfortunately, out of the rides I did, my least favorite was Monsters. Again, I don't think it's a bad ride. I think it's really fun if you just keep your head straight. My favorite, however, though, was probably the Dragon roller coaster. I had a lot of fun with. That's the one I had the most fun on. I was very excited that I actually got like kind of a thrill ride in there, because I didn't think we were gonna hit that many rides, and I was correct about that. So I'm glad one of the ones I did was a fun one. I had fun with it. Someone asked what was the best part. Again, the theming. The theming was really, really well done. I think all of the just kind of the nitty-gritty details that they put into this park was really, really good. I just love like walking into a random corner of Mario and all of a sudden you're underground and playing a bomb minigame. Hell yeah, that's awesome. How crowded was it? It was okay. Again, I think once the gates open, it's gonna be a completely different story. But there were definitely some very crowded and like very cramped parts. But a lot of the celestial area was very, very open, and that was a nice breath of fresh air to get out of those kind of cramped areas. And finally, how was the theming with Burke? Good. It was very, very good. Again, I feel like if you're a fan of that franchise, you're gonna eat it up. It's like I'm sure there's a ton of references that I didn't get, especially on the Dragon ride. I think you're gonna get a lot of enjoyment out of that if you love those movies. Overall, I think it's a solid park, but I don't think it's a 10 out of 10, as everyone is making it. I've seen a lot of people that are saying this is the best park they've ever been to. I disagree with that. I think either Animal Kingdom or Islands of Adventure, I think, are my favorite parks. Not favorite, but the best parks I've been to. My favorite is Hollywood Studios. That's just because I am biased as hell. But yeah, I think there's a lot to see, but not much to do. I think that's the best way I can put it. So on a out of 10 rating, I think it's a 7. I think the theming is incredible, but I think everything else could be handled a little bit better. And let me reiterate, this is not a finished park. I got to see this pretty early on in the test running stage. They just started test running this, so they're working out all the kinks. A lot of the complaints that I have are probably going to be fixed over time. I really hope so. Please add some umbrellas or some shade or something. Just give me some shade, man. But if you liked it, good. I'm glad. Let me know what you thought. I want to know why you like it. I like hearing people happy about stuff. So please put down in the comments like why you like this park, because I want to know. I really, really do. But this was my personal experience. This is my opinion. This is my own. I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with it, and if you do, that's okay. I'm glad you liked it, but this was my experience doing this. And would I go again? Yes, I would go again. There's a lot of stuff I did not see, especially Nintendo. I'd love to go back to Nintendo. I want to go through every corner of that place. I would go again, but I would not. I do not think I would bear going out in the heat in the 90-degree weather with the super large crowds that it's probably going to have anytime soon. I think given the choice between that and going to the calm Hollywood Studios, I would go back to Hollywood Studios. So no, this is not a Disney killer. But I enjoyed it. I had a good time, and I look forward to going back at some point, hopefully in the near future, but in the future. I'm gonna wait till the crowds die down, especially after the summer. But yeah, that was my experience. All in all, a good time, but not the perfect park that it is trying so hard to be. Anyway, that's it. Let me know what you think. I'm very curious. Reach out. Tell me your stories once you start going. I would love to know. Love to know. And if you are gonna go in the future, what are you most excited about? I know this is a very weird first video for an Indiana Jones YouTube channel, but it's something that I really wanted to talk about because I'm fascinated by how theme parks work, and I like comparing them and seeing what's different. What did this one do better than the other? What did it do worse? So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to comment back, and yeah, fortune and glory.